A financial crisis is here. U.S. banks are closing down hundreds of branches and laying off thousands of workers, Michael Snyder reports. I know that there's a lot going on in the world right now, but I just had to write about what's happening to our banks. High interest rates and chaos in the real estate industry are combining to put an enormous amount of pressure on our largest financial institutions. As a result, banks are getting very tight with their money, and they're closing down hundreds of branches, and they are laying off thousands of workers. We are in the early stages of the worst financial crisis since 2008 and 2009, and I fully expect conditions to get even worse in the months ahead. During the first week of October alone, U.S. banks closed a whopping 54 local branches. Major U.S. banks are continuing to close branches across the U.S., leaving an increasing number of Americans without access to basic financial services. Bank of America axed 21 branches in the first week of October, according to a bulletin published by the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, OCC, on Friday. Wells Fargo shuttered 15, while U.S. Bank and Chase reported closing 9 and 3 respectively. In total, some 54 locations had either closed or were scheduled to close between October 1st and October 7th. That is just 1 week. Of course, bank branches have been closing at a frightening pace for quite some time now. Last year, U.S. Bank shut down about 2,000 more branches than they opened. Banks are closing branches faster than they're opening new ones. U.S. banks closed over 3,000 branches last year, while opening just 1,000. JPM Morgan Chase led in branch closures last year, shuttering 144 branches while opening 133. The trend will likely continue as banks face staunch competition for deposits and younger customers from online banks, fintech firms, and big tech. Unless you live under a rock, I'm sure that you've noticed this happening in your own local area. For many Americans, a trip to the bank is no longer just a few minutes away. And our banks are also laying off staggering numbers of workers here in 2023. The largest American banks have been quietly laying off workers all year, and some of the deepest cuts are yet to come. Even as the economy has surprised forecasters, while its resilience, lenders have cut headcount or unannounced plans to do so, or they've announced plans to do so, laying off employees, with the key exception being JP Morgan Chase, the biggest and most profitable U.S. bank. Pressured by the impact of higher interest rates on the mortgage business, the Wall Street deal making and funding costs, the next 5 largest U.S. banks have cut a combined 20,000 positions so far this year, according to company filings. The banking industry is in trouble. It's in big trouble. And this is happening at a time when economic conditions are steadily deteriorating. In fact, we just learned that the Conference Board's index of leading economic indicators has now fallen for 18 months in a row. The Conference Board Leading Economic Indicator Index, LEI, for the U.S. declined by 0.7% in September 2023 to 104.6. 2016, it was at 100. Now, following the decline of 0.5% in August, the LEI is down 3.4% over the 6-month period between March and September 2023, an improvement from its 4.6% contraction over the previous 6 months, September 2022 to March 2023. The LEI for the U.S. fell again in September, marking a year and a half of consecutive monthly declines since April 2022, said Justina Zabinska-Lamonica, Senior Business Cycle Indicators Senior Manager at the Conference Board. In September, negative or flat contributions from 9 of the index's 10 components more than offset fewer initial claims for unemployment insurance, although the 6-month growth rate in the LEI is somewhat less negative and the recession signal did not sound, it still signals risk of economic weakness ahead. So far, the U.S. economy has shown considerable resilience despite pressures from rising interest rates and high inflation. Nonetheless, the Conference Board forecasts that this trend will not be sustained for much longer, and a shallow recession is likely in the first half of 2024. And things are this bad now. What's going to happen if the hot phase of World War III suddenly erupts in the Middle East? At this point, nobody can claim that the economy is headed in the right direction. During the first 9 months of this year, the number of commercial Chapter 11 bankruptcies was 61% higher than it was during the same period a year ago. A wide array of U.S. businesses have struggled this year. In the first 9 months of 2023, commercial Chapter 11 bankruptcies have soared 61% year over year to 4,553, according to Epic Bankruptcy, which provides U.S. bankruptcy filing data. 61%. Let that number sink in for a moment. And we have just learned that sales of previously owned homes have dropped to a level not seen since 2010, when the U.S. was in the midst of a foreclosure crisis. Sales of previously owned homes dropped 2% in September from August to a seasonally adjusted annualized rate of 3.69 million units. According to the National Association of Realtors, sales were 15.4% lower compared with September 2022. This is the slowest sale pace since October 2010, during the Great Recession, when the market was in the midst of a foreclosure crisis. As a comparison, just 2 years ago, when mortgage rates hovered around 3%, home sales were running at a 6.6 million pace. The average rate on the 30-year fix today is right around 8%, according to the Mortgage News Daily. 8%. Speaking of home foreclosures, they're up 34% compared to the same time in 2022. Home foreclosures are on the rise as Americans continue to grapple with the ongoing cost of living crisis. That is according to a new report published by real estate data provider Atom, which found that foreclosure filings, which includes default notices, scheduled auctions, and bank repossessions, surged 28% in the third quarter to 124,539. Foreclosures are up 34% from the same time a year ago. A new economic crisis is here, and the truth is that it's going to get a whole lot worse. So even though things are not great now, enjoy these last few days of relative stability while you still can, because war in the Middle East will soon plunge the entire global economy into a state of great turmoil. This is by Michael Snyder, and he says, my name is Michael. About the author, my name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings to the hands of as many people as possible. I've also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so you won't miss any of my articles. I've published thousands of articles on the economic collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the most important news. And the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and the reader should consult licensed professionals before making legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. And this is on the Economic Collapse blog by Michael Snyder. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.